Hi guys, Tony from Dad Built Down Under. Hey listen, this is the second video out of two. I did one on the rear suspension in the Corvette, and I'm going to do one on the front suspension just to keep the time frames down a little bit. So there'll be two separate videos, but pretty much done in the same weekend. So recap from the rear suspension bushes, they're SuperPro. I put those in quite some time ago, under the impression that I had a little bit of binding on those SuperPro bushes, and I did. So what it was the strut rods were, or the dog bones were pinched on the factory plate that goes down to the knuckle, on the suspension knuckle, and it was, instead of pulling down on the crush tube, it was pulling down on the bush itself. So when it pulls down on the bush, that's when you're going to get binding. So the old 84 was binding up in the bum quite bad, pretty much like too much sugar or too much wheat, I suppose, that binds you up. So what I did is I took all the dog bones out and went through and made sure that the crush tube was the same length as what the bush was wide. And in actual fact, I trimmed the bush, not the crush tube. I need the crush tube to be left alone. So went through and tidied all those up and got the travel right. And in the last video, you'll notice that I put a bolt in the vise, and then put the dog bone into the vise, and then went through and torqued it up to 65 pounds, and then from there moved the dog bone. So if it was too tight and I had to grab onto it and had to grab force onto it, I trimmed the bush. And if it was nice and I could move it with two fingers or a finger, just moving it around like that, well then it basically just got re-greased and put back in. So, but there was none of that happening. There was only one bush. So the rear's still sitting a bit high. Still way too high, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I've torqued that down. I dropped it back on all fours, four wheels that is, with the suspension totally loose, and then dropped it down to take the weight of the rear spring was taking the weight of the whole car, and then proceeded to jump on it a couple of times. It got up in the back there and jumped on there, and the suspension travel was fine. Everything was moving. Dog bones are moving the way they should do. Rear spring was moving fine. There's no drama there. Nothing's bound up there anymore. So even though it's higher than Willie Nelson and Snoop Dogg having an after party, it still works. The suspension travel still works, and I'm looking at it thinking, well, I don't really have all the weight in here yet either. So I'm hoping by the time I put the doors on, put the back glass in, put all the carpet in, put the seats in, you get where I'm going. There's probably another couple 100 kilos worth of weight to go on there yet, and I know when I get in there it does come down a little bit. So it might be right. It might just look high, and I might be worried about it for no reason. But I did find the binding in the dog bones, and I've torqued it at ride height. So I didn't put it down on a jack. I just tightened up all the bolts, put the bloody wheels on, dropped it down on its ass, and then went through and torqued it all up from underneath the car. Good thing when you got a hoist, I suppose. Okay, so we're at the front. While I digress, I've got the bonnet on obviously because there's clearance issues up there with the ProFlow XT. Well, it does fit, but there's a little, it is touching there at the moment, but this bonnet's sitting a little bit high, so sorry, low. So but I am getting that modified. I've got a bloke over at Jim Boomba that he's a boat builder, and he does a lot of fiberglass stuff for Corvettes. And yeah, so well, what happened there? The old GoPro decided to have a hissy fit. So we're onto the front. I've got the wheels up. I've jacked it up here. So the good thing about a Corvette is if you jack it here, which is roughly in line with the side mirror, if you jack it here, it'll actually lift the whole side of the car up. Go on, I dare you to try that. It does. It works. So you jack it there, the whole side lifts up. And then what I did is I put a stand under there, one click up. So that's holding the weight. So that's a pinch weld. And that's probably the strongest place to jack it. So don't jack it underneath in the floor because that's fiberglass. Keep away from there. I've seen a lot of jacks go through the floor on these things, and from here backwards is a metal frame. From here forwards plastic and fiberglass, and yeah, it's not real strong at all. So you jack there and you go through the floor, it's your own stupid fault. Keep away from there. Right. Tyres off, wheels off, and you can see that this one's all together, right? So what I did is I went through, and I'm just going to tell you what I did is I dropped the bottom ball joint and knocked it out, took the shock mount off, took the sway bar link out, so that bolt and that bolt, and then took all these bolts out of here, out of the plate, out of that aluminium plate. So what I've done is I'll show you over here. So I've started doing the right hand side. So you can see that's all hanging, right? And I can lift that top one. There's no restriction up there in that top control arm at all. Mind you, I have got it backed off. It's supposed to be 35 pound, but the whole point of it was to make sure that there was no restriction on it when it was loose, and there is none. So bottom control arm is out. I'm going to grease this back up with some lithium grease. There's a rubber under here that needs to be greased up. When I took it apart and I took the control arm off the bottom of the spring, it was loose. It was loose in here because obviously I'd undone them, but what that told me was it wasn't binding up. So to prove that, we've got it over here on the vice, and I've used the same theory as I did with the back dog bones. I've put in the bolt that fastens this in, and then I've put a washer in there, and a washer in there to simulate the housing where it gets mounted to, and then I've put the bolt in there and I've torqued this up to 60 pound, right? So if the bushing was binding, you would not be able to do that. Oh crap. You see that? See how easy that moves in the bushing? So what that means is that this, being the washer, aka the housing, the K-member, is riding on the cross tube. And the way I can tell that is when you look at the top of that bushing, and if I zoom in, I can't zoom in there, can't zoom, it's a GoPro, mate. So, can you see there's a little lip there? This cross tube is longer than the bushing, and that's exactly what we want. So, I've pulled it apart for no reason, but I wanted to check. I'm going to re-grease, I'm going to pop these cross tubes out, put some more grease in there, because it's been a while, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying, right? You know what I'm saying, boys, right, eh? And do the same for this one, and then this one I'll go back in. Good thing about it is I plan to do the front suspension on Sunday, and I've got this one out, and I'll have this one back in by the time I go down for dinner, which means I've only got one to do. So that means that tomorrow I'll get the last one out, which is the left hand side, and I might have a bit of a look at the Suburban. It's got some issues with the center carrier bearing, so I've already done that, and I think it's starting to chew it out again. So, and because it's been lowered, I think it's putting pressure on that bearing. So I've got to figure out what the hell's going on there, because I've got to get it repaired, because I think we're going away and we're taking it at Christmas time. So I might buy 2 carrier bearings, one to put in for temporary duration, and another one to put in once I figure out where that alignment needs to be. I've got a level coming next week, a digital level that I can read the degrees, on, and I'm gonna just have a look at the drive line. A couple of the blokes, gurus on the forums, are telling me that it is the drive shaft angle that is causing extra load on that center bearing, so we'll be doing that one very shortly, I would say. Anywho, back to the control arms. These are loosey-goosey, which is what they need to be. And I'll test the other one, but it's the same. There's a lip here, so I'm happy that, you know, if I can get a washer in here on this side, on the inside, I'll do that, because this one sticks out, and I might do that yet, because I think there's enough room to run one washer but not two. And the washer just pushes down on that crush tube, and it stops it rubbing on the bush, because you want the bush, it needs to pivot. If it doesn't pivot, it's no good. So anyway, we'll get back to it, eh? We'll put this back in. Once I get it back in and tightened up, I'll run you through and show you how loose it is in there, and we'll see if we can put a washer in there, and we'll try and help it from, oh, I'll tell you what, it'd be alright if we could get a couple of smaller ones. I'd like washers in there, but it just won't fit. I just know that it won't fit. But anyway, we'll try, we'll have another crack at it, and even if there's one on the inside, and then this one here will ride on the plate when the plate comes down, because the plate's sort of bowed anyway, because the bolt's been coming in over the years. So if it comes down and sits on the crush washer, it won't bind up, but the inner ones probably need a washer if I can get one in there. So I'll do one there, and then on the outside there won't be one. Anyway, we'll keep going with that, and I'll see you on the next take. So I've just swapped this over, guys, just to show you that the theory's working. So we just spoke about this one, and I've flipped it over, tightened this up to 60 something pounds, whatever it is. It's tight, right? And then I can move it with that much effort. Right, so that's telling me on the bench that the bushing's not binding. So now we have to go over to the housing and just double check it there. And as I said, I'm leaning towards trying to see if I can get a washer on the inside of them, because then that'll sit against the K-member, and then when the K-member's pulled down, it'll pull down onto this little lip here, which means that it should be higher than the bushing itself, because you can see the little lip there. So theory has proven to be right there. Let's go and get it in the car. I'll see you on the next take, guys. Righto, so I've put the I took the sleeves out, the crush washers out of both sides of the bush, re-greased while I was at it. I mean, while you're out, you may as well just, you know, make sure they're lubed up. Popped them back in. They virtually push in by hand. You've only got to push them in probably, you know, half an inch, not even that, with the vise. I've torqued these two bolts up, so this one here and the other one up to 96 foot-pounds. That's what it says in the factory service manual. I've got a factory service manual. They're not cheap, but it's got all the torque settings on it. I find that the Shilton ones for this car are pretty vague, and I find that the year-specific workshop manuals are the best. And I've got a workshop manual and also the wiring diagram manual as well. So I think it worked out to a couple of $100 by the time I got it in from the US. But well worth it when you got these cars, because yeah, as I said, the Shilton ones for 20 or 30 bucks just don't cut it. They're vague. They don't have everything in there. So listen, what I've done, as I was saying, is I've torqued these two bolts up to 96 foot-pounds, and I'm looking at this control arm. I've put grease in here, the silicone grease, which is the same grease that you lube up the bushings with, and at the moment this is what's happening. Look, it's loose, there's no binding there at all. So what I'm going to do is I'll put it all back together. Look at a storm coming by the looks of it, so I'm going to have to pull up stumps here shortly and put the burbo away because it can't stay out there. Yeah, I don't want that old fella all dented up, and well, no more than he is at the moment, you know what I mean? Like, you got to keep these things in good nick, right? So if that storm comes in, that truck's going back up under here, so that means that our day has ended. So as I was saying, I've greased up there, so when we pull that back up to the spring there, it's all lubed up and ready to go. So if I don't get to that this afternoon because of that rain coming, we'll definitely kick off again tomorrow, Sunday morning. And now that we've got a head start on this is ready to go back together. This won't take long to put back together because it's only the ball joint to go in. The plate, which is over here. There's a few bolts on there. Oh, J-nut fell off. That's all that holds them shocks in too, eh? It's just a J-nut, which is bloody, it's unbelievable. 22mm J and onto a J-nut, and that's it. That holds the bottom of the shock. It's unbelievable. That just blows my mind. I mean, there'd be a plate or anything, you know, like if it was a full-on truck or anything. So yeah, so then that plate goes on, put the control arm, sorry, the sway bar link pin back in, put this back on the ball joint. That popped off fairly effortlessly. So what I use one of these. And it's a bit difficult to get it in there. You've actually got to jack up the axle, so you've got room to get to this nut up here. But this hugs the bottom of the knuckle here. So one under each side, one under there, and then one under there. And then you just drive that. Make sure it's straight. If it's skewed, it's going to pop off, and yeah, it's going to make it, you know, probably break something. But if you've got it fairly straight, a few ooga-doogas, and she pops off. It explodes, it's quite violent, but yeah, it gets it off. So as I was saying, I've got that top suspension there, that control arm supported by that piece of timber there, that piece of merbau, or let's just go hardwood decking timber, if we can't say it properly, right? And then and that's just sitting there. But as I said, and I showed you before, this is all loose. I can lift this up and down. I mean, there's weight in this, in the hub assembly, but it moves freely. It's not locking up. There's no need for me to take that out. I am still going to take out the other side because I'm going to lube up that bottom control arm and make sure that we don't have binding on there as well. I just wanted to double check everything. So once I find it and I think, oh well, I don't need to do the other side, well I do. I need to check it and just make sure that it's right. So at the end of the day, if it's all lubed up and it's in the right spot, it's sitting high and I can't do a damn thing about it. So I'm not happy about that. I'd like it a little bit lower, but it's got new bushings in it, it's got new suspension in it, it's a new vehicle. And we've still got a little bit of weight to put on here yet. We've still got front bumper, which is not going to be urethane, it'll be fiberglass. I've got a new bumper coming in from ACI Vet in Sylvania, in Ohio. So I've got a front and rear bumper coming from them. And they're sitting in New Jersey waiting to get out, to come out. And then they'll end up in Brisbane, so they're not cheap. So but I know that they're going to be a better fit than what we've got here. So front bumper coming, that's a bit of weight. We're going to modify the hood. There's still water to go in the radiator. The engine's got oil. Transmission's got oil already. Power steering needs topping up. There's still a whole heap of weight to go on this car. Doors, back glass, roof hatch, seats, carpet. You get the idea. There's a little bit more weight to go on here yet. So, but what I will do is, now that that's torqued up to 96 pounds, I might leave it because I know that it's loose. And what we'll do is we'll leave the top loose and we'll put it all together, put the wheel on, drop it down, and then we'll torque the top control arm after it's sitting on the wheel again. And then with this massive cavity at the top of the wheel here, so I can't do anything about that. So going on that, by the end of tomorrow, we should have this all back together, sitting on all fours again, which means that next weekend I can start mocking up for the exhaust and tacking that up. So I've got the MIG all set up. It's a gasless wire at the moment, so that's all I need to just go through and tack up all these pieces and put it all together. But at least we've double checked the suspension, thinking that we had a binding issue, and we sort of did it in the rear, as I said. So far the front is not showing that though, but it's still sitting up higher than Willie and Snoop Dogg's after party. So I don't know. I mean, I'd like to get involved. I'd get invited to that after party, I'm telling you. But that's another story. Let's not go there just yet. Yeah. All right. So let's pause it there, and we'll pick it up again tomorrow to go through the other side, and we'll end the video tomorrow afternoon with the wheels back on and it's sitting down on all fours. So yeah, all right, we'll see you in the morning, guys. Right, Sunday morning. Been up early getting stuff ready for today, and I've just finished the right hand side. So what I've done is I've put it all back together, and we have torqued the stabilizer link up, torqued up the plate bolts and the shock mount, and the bottom ball joint, but I've left the control arm bolts loose, including the top. So the goal now is that now that that's all back together, because this all moves, as a, you know, in one of the last takes there we did, I took these up to 96 foot-pounds, and this bottom control arm moves freely. So I know that it's not binding on the bushing, and in actual fact the cross tubes are longer than what the bush is wider, which is why it's not binding. Okay, so we have this is all back together except for, as I said, the bottom control arm bolts and the top control arm nuts, the big 30mm ones. You can see they're all loose, so I'll do them up once the wheel goes on. The wheel's going on after we do the other side, and then once the wheel goes on and we drop it down onto the wheels again and get it under its own weight, then I'll come through and we'll nip these up to 96 foot-pounds on those ones. And it says there's no torque setting for these ones up here, but they reckon about 35 to 40 pounds and a bit of Loctite on there. So I'm going to do Loctite and probably 35 pounds. I find that if they're a little bit tight, they do start to bind up because they're pulling in on the shaft. So I noticed that when I backed them off a little bit, they weren't that bad. I put them up to the 40 pounds and it was a bit tight. So righto, over this side we're about to disassemble it all. So as I said, same with the other side, we're going to undo the stabilizer link. So one bolt there, this bolt here. We're going to undo the shock mount. We're going to undo the plate bolt here and that one there, and then one in over there, and then take the nut off the ball joint and obviously the pin, and we're going to pop that out. So righto, so I use one of these for the ball joints. One of these pullers. These pullers actually get in, they come underneath the aluminium shaft, and as long as you keep them straight, they sort of sit like that. As long as you keep them sort of straight and they're not skewed if they won't bust out. And they usually pop off, so it helps protect the boot on the joint, so that they come underneath there. So the hook, this part of the hook, obviously goes under there, and it doesn't bugger the boot up. So it's pretty violent when it lets go, but you know that it's right, so you sort of just keep ploughing on until it pops. Once it pops off, that whole assembly drops down, obviously after you take the jack out, because the spring will want to tend to push away as well. So I'm going to get into that, and then we'll get into where we're looking at the binding on the bushings. I'm not expecting this side to be any different to the other side, so I'm expecting it to be pulling down on the crush tube, and no bind is evident. So obviously this car is sitting higher, which is the whole purpose of the rear video that we've done, and now the front video that we're doing as a follow-up to our SuperPro ones. So if you look through our video library there, you'll see a couple with the SuperPro bushings and how they were installed on the front control arms, I believe, or the dog bones. Might have done the dog bones, and how easy they were to put on. No, they're not easy to put on. They're tricky, but they're a better bush. So let's get cracking on this today. I'll pull this apart, get it all up out of the way, and we'll have a look at the binding issue on the control arm. We'll also go through the test again, so you can see that I'm using the same method for the right hand side as what we're doing on the left hand side. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to find any potential bind and reduce that or eliminate that, so that we can so that we know that the suspension's traveling correctly, and also to try and see if it addresses the height issues, which it doesn't look like it is. And don't forget that this car is still missing a whole heap of weight, as I said yesterday. It's got a urethane bumper on there now, but it will have a fiberglass bumper on, which is a little bit heavier than the urethane. It's missing the back glass, it's missing all the interior, it's missing the seats, it's missing the roof, it's missing the doors, it's missing the vent, it's missing the front bumper. So there's a bit of weight there that will pull the whole car down. And the funny thing is that when you put weight in these Corvettes, it normally distributes evenly. The engineers have done a pretty good job with that. They can sag in the bum and sit up in the front, but usually if they're right, I mean they're pretty well balanced. So yeah, so anyway, let's get cracking on this, and I'll give you an update when I get it all pulled apart. Righto, I don't know how many times I use the puller to get the bottom ball joint out, that I'm thinking to myself, you know, as you're tightening something up and you go, well, is this thing gonna pop or snap or break or explode? And then all of a sudden, bang! It scares the shit out of me every time, I'm telling you. But ball joint's off, and that is definitely the tool, right? There is another one that you can use that I have, is this one, but I think I've stripped that. These work fairly well as well, but I prefer either the big one, that's when you're not playing anymore, or this little one over here is good for these, good for the Corvette ones, because it fits in there. I mean, if there was a smaller one, the trouble is you go smaller, then it gets weaker. Anywho, I'm digressing. So obviously the bolts are loose because we loosened them last week, but you can see more slop than my first. Right, Now, I'm going to take that out. We're going to run through that process that we ran through yesterday, where we're going to test the control arm. So, I don't know how easy this is to get out. Oh no. No, we'll have I'll need two hands because there's a nut on the inside that I'm going to lose for sure. I'll never find it again. So let's pull it out, and then I'll get you back. We can have a look at the cross tube and the bushing face, and just see, just on the visual inspection, where if it has been binding at all. So remember that this is all loose, and I've got this tied up at the moment, just with this there, but all the top is all loose, and if anything's going to be binding, it'll be the bottom one anyway. The top one doesn't usually bind that much, only if you over tighten them big ass nuts on there. So anyway, we'll pull these bottom ones out and we'll have a bit of a look, and I'll get you back and we can assess the situation. Righto, so we've got the control arm in the vise. You can see the bolt there, and I've put in the factory crush washers that were on the original rubber bushes. And the reason I've done that is because the diameter around the bolt is a bit better than the ones I was using. So I was using these to test, but they walk around a bit because the hole's too big. So the factory ones are roughly the right. You can see they're smaller than that. Anywho, so what the washer's doing, you can see the washer there, right there. The washer's simulating one side of the K-member, and this one's simulating the other side of the K-member. The bolt obviously goes through there, that's a no-brainer, right? I've got this up to 65 pounds, and that one pivots fine. So even if you did it up to 96, I still believe that it may get a little bit tighter, but that's pretty good. There's no slop, it just moves, which is what it has to do, right? So what we're going to do is I'm going to flip it around and do the other side, but I need two hands to do that. And this one doesn't have much lip, but I reckon if you got a magnifying glass on there, you'd find that that cross tube is sitting, and we're not going to see it on this camera, is probably sitting flush with that bushing, and underneath here you can definitely see that there's a shadow line there. So okay, you're not going to see it. There is a shadow line there. I can catch my nail on it, see? So that means that the bush is narrower than what the tube is in length, and that's the whole purpose of this exercise, is to prove that we've got no binding there, and that we're good to go. So the last thing you want to do is spend all the time and money on getting the suspension going, and then you've got bind. So let's flip this over and we'll have a bit of a look. I'll get you back and we'll go through that process again as well. Righto, now I've flipped this over, done this up to 65, and this one moves the same. So I mean, by the time I grease that up again, I'm going to pop the crush tubes out and re-grease them, pop them back in. You may as well while you're down at this this level of deconstruction, so to speak. But we're going to do that. We're going to put it back together and reinstall the control arm in the car, get it all back together, and pretty much prove that we have no binding issues in that. Because look at that, I mean that's at 65 pounds. Yeah, you can't really complain about that. So the trick is, I do believe that the kits are supposed to come with washers that go either side, one there and one there, but you don't fit them in there. by the time you put the washers on there and the crush tube and everything, it is too wide for the K member. So I think the solution there for SuperPro, if they're ever doing any revisits to their design, is to ditch the washers, make the crush tube longer. It only needs to be a bee's dick, but that's what I found. The back ones were bound up, the front ones don't seem to be bound up at all. So let's grease it all, put it back together, and see and torque up I'll torque them in the K member before we put it all back together, and just see how loose it is under 96 pounds, because this is only 65, and while it shouldn't make too much difference, it may. Once we get it in there, torque it up to 96, and if the movement's still good, I'll back them right off to loose, and then we'll put it all together, and then these bolts and the top 2 nuts will be the last ones that get torqued up once it's sitting back down on its wheels. All right, let's get that cranking. Righto, put the control arm back in, put the bolts in, and torqued them up to 96 pounds, factory spec. And when I come over here, right, now it's caught on the spring. So, caught on the spring. So at 96 pounds, that's not bound up. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to undo those 2 bolts, because I don't want them at 96 pounds when I drop the weight on it. We're going to undo them, and we're going to put the rest of this crap back together, and then torque it up. Well, torque it up except for the control arm bolts, the top and bottom control arm bolts. Nuts at the top, of course. Drop it down on the wheels again, and then we're going to go around and torque it up. And then I can't test the suspension travel because I'm here by myself, so I'm just going to have a look at how it is, and but from what I can see, I might be able to throw a jack underneath and just sort of test it before the wheels go on, and I might bring his back and have a bit of a look at that. You can see that it's all moving up and down, so the jack would probably simulate the wheel being on, going up and down, you know. So once it's all back together, we can have a bit of a look and see how it's traveling. So yeah, anyway, we'll see you shortly, and we'll get this thing loosened up and back together, and then go from there. But yeah, no binding on that one either, so well, that's a good thing though. Good thing and a bad thing. It just means it's sitting high. So anyway, we'll put him back together, and it is what it is. So going on that sort of leads me to the next step, which will be exhaust, and I start that next weekend, now that we've gone through this process and double checked everything. So yeah, I mean, you can't complain about that. So the trick is the crush tubes definitely need to be longer than the bush is wider. Well, sorry, wide. And the washers I found in all the kits were pretty much useless, apart from the strut, the camber bolts, the camber rods, because they come with, obviously the camber rods have 2 bolts, two washers either side, slipped up the guts. They need to be there, so that makes sense. There's none on the knuckle end, and the dog bones are supposed to have them in there, but they don't fit in the flange. There's no way in the world they're going to fit in that mount. So, and I even tried bending mine on the other side, and I went, you know what, let's just trim the bloody bush. That's what we did. So, and now it travels really, really good. So anyway, we'll bring you in shortly. Alright guys, so just gonna pull the pin on the video, but in closing I thought I'd add some information on where we are now and what I'm going to do. So at the moment, the suspension, front and rear suspension, is sitting higher than normal. I've checked the height and of the deck to the bottom of the chassis rail, and I think factory settings on a C4 Corvette at the front are 9¼ inch, and I'm sitting at 235 millimeters, which is about that. So the ride height at the moment apparently is correct. The wheel arch is visually showing a big gap between the top of the wheel and the arch, but you got to remember that the car hasn't got all of its weight on it. So what I've done is I've put everything back together, and I said I was going to torque up the front suspension after re-greasing everything and obviously checking for the potential binding on the SuperPro bushes. I'd like to conclude that there was no binding of the lower control arm at the front, either one of them. The bolts and the housing, the K-member housing, were pulling down on the crush tube, which is what they're meant to do, and the bushing was not affected at all. And I proved that with mocking it up in the vise, with obviously a bolt and a couple of washers, as you've just seen, and it pivoted fine. So there's no binding on any of those bushes on the lower control arms on this car. There was a little bit on the dog bones, as I addressed in that video, and that was to do with the shorter crush tube. Now that kit is supposed to be used with the supplied washers. However, the supplied washers are nearly 2 millimeters thick each, and they don't go into the housing onto the chassis mount where they mount onto the car. So if SuperPro want to have another look at that kit, by all means, my unqualified opinion is that the crush tube just needs to be a little bit longer. It doesn't need the washers. Crush tube just needs to be a little bit longer than the current bushes that are there. The bushes are fine, and it will fit together perfectly. What I've done though is I've gone through and obviously reassembled everything, and I'll show you in a minute. But I've loosened off the mounting brackets for the front and rear stabilizer bars, just in case we had any hook up there as well. And I've left everything loose and everything's lubricated, and what I'm going to do is just leave it sit for a while, and as we add the exhaust, the front and rear fiberglass bumpers, obviously all the interior's got to go back in, the seats, the rear hatch glass has got to go back on, the doors and the internal mechanics of the doors, all that weight's got to be added, and then a fat bald fella in the driver's side. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, typical Corvette driver. No, I can't do the shoes, man. I can't do the shoes and those short shorts. I don't do that. It's work boots for me, mate. Anyhow, getting back. It's missing a bit of weight is what I'm trying to say, and the weight has a bearing on these cars. These cars are pretty well distributed with their weight from factory. I mean, the engineers knew what they were doing. Let's face it, they're engineers. Except for when they put bolts in the wrong spot and you can't get them out. Then they need a bit of a slap up the side of the ear, right? Because it's like, what did you do that for, boys? But yeah, no, these Corvettes are pretty well weight distributed properly, and I know that as soon as I start adding weight to this car, it's going to come down a little bit. Is it going to come down so there's not much gap between the top of the wheel and the bottom of the wheel arch? Probably not. Probably only 20 mil, if that. So not even an inch. But saying that, it's not too bad, and everything's sitting right. Everything's loose. It can't come down any further. It is what it is. So we're going to leave it at that. I'm going to put these two videos up. One will be front, one will be rear. Obviously, front one will be the last one that we're working on today. And next weekend we're going to kick off our videos with exhaust, and hopefully Hartley will come up too. He's been busy, went fishing with his mate yesterday, and today him and the grandkids are out at Dreamworld on the Gold Coast, so they've left me at home to work on the car, and they're off having a good time at the theme parks. So going on that, we're pretty much done here, but let's just walk around. I'll just run you over what where we're up to, and you can have a bit of a look. Righto, you can see the gap there between the top of the wheel and the wheel arch, and yeah, it's sitting high, but remember, no bumper, no side skirts, which are bugger all. The doors are not there, the windows in the doors, the roof, the rear glass hatch, the seats, the carpet. You know, I mean, it's got the rear urethane bumper on it temporarily. I do have the fiberglass ones coming, so it's missing a whole heap of weight. This is where the back is sitting. So it's sitting all right. Everything's loose. So dog bones, dog bone to chassis mount are loose, dog bone to knuckle are loose. The outer camber bolt, that one there, is loose, and I have loosened the sway bar because I thought it might have been binding on the bush, because there's new bushes up in there as well. So, but that is not the case. It is actually sitting. Well, the spring has the weight. Let's just say that. So anyway, that is that one, and you can see rear, it's not too far out. I know some of you blokes have got your Corvettes sitting on their guts, but man, I'll tell you what, that's just going to be a rock magnet, and I'll show you why. So underneath here, let's go under here. Oh, crapola. Alright, so there's the Tremec transmission. There's the SFI bell housing, and that's the lowest part of the car right there. That's a 7¼ inch oil pan. It's a Moroso one, and I got that so that it's roughly in line, if I put that up a little bit, with the cane member. So the only thing that's going to hit rocks is the bottom of that. Right? So, and at the moment I think that's about 150 mil off the deck. So if we go dropping this car another, mind me while I come back out again, if we go dropping this car another inch or so, where we're sitting at 5 inches, which is 125 mil, and if we're sitting at that, we don't have a lot before the cops start pinging us up, because it's 100 mil. So going on that, it's probably better where it's sitting at the moment. It's unladen, and if it comes down another inch, it'll be at 125, it'll be 5 inches, and that's probably spot on. It's probably okay, and I'd be okay with that because I don't want nothing hitting the bottom of that, underneath all that engine and everything. Even though the pan's in line with the cane member, it can still, any rocks go through there, it's empty that pan in no time, and that engine's a lot of money in there, so I don't want that to blow up and through starvation of oil. So I started these two videos yesterday and today, or front and rear, because it's sitting too high. In my opinion, it's sitting too high, and I thought maybe it was binding. I wanted to check the SuperPro bushes weren't binding, and the dog bones were. You can see by the indentation on that video of the washer, the factory washer, that it was pressing into the bush, which means it was binding. So I've trimmed those off, but I spoke with SuperPro about that on Friday. I rang them. They're an Australian company. They're owned by Fulcrum, I believe. The tech guy there was really helpful, and he said, look, go easy with your trim. Make sure that the crush tube is just slightly longer than what the bush is wide, and you won't have any drama. You still need it to be firm, a firm fit, but you don't need it to be binding, and it needs to allow pivot. So that's why I tested that, and I showed you on both videos how I was testing the pivot points of all the components. Everything pivots fine. So once it went back in there, I then torqued everything up to spec, and everything pivots fine in there too. So it's just a matter of putting it all back together and dropping it back onto the wheels. Once it's on the wheels, it's under weight. The wheels are holding it up, the spring's doing its job. So the only thing that's torqued up at the moment is the front and rear spring. That's it. I haven't torqued the top control arms, the bottom control arms, the stabiliser bar, as I said, is all loose. The dog bones are loose in the rear, the whole bit. So the only thing holding that car up at the moment is the spring. So and that's what I want it to do. I want it to be sitting. The spring needs to do its job, basically. It's not a new spring, it's a factory spring that was in there. There was no need to replace it. It was fine. I mean, they're fiberglass springs. I don't think they sag. I don't think they wear out. Well, they probably do, they snap. That's only if you've done stupid shit and you've lowered it and put the lowering blocks in the front and then it's cracked it. That happens. I've seen blokes do that. They go, oh yeah, we've lowered my C4 and I put lowering blocks in it and cracked the front spring. Yeah, good luck. Hey, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Apologise for the young fella and Amelia, Hartley and Amelia not coming up. They've been busy. Millie's been doing stuff with school. But she did say, as I said, she wanted to help sand and carry on there. So once I get to that stage where we're looking at doing the epoxy primers and high build primers, she'll be up here sanding. She'll come up and help sand. So because then it's getting closer to getting colour on it. So Hartley's been busy, so he hasn't been able to come up. But yes, I think we'll get them back up here eventually, and especially when the new bumpers and that arrive, we'll do a day trip in and pick up the bumpers from the company that's shipping them over. I'm waiting so ACI in Sylvania, Ohio have shipped them out, and they've shipped them to my freight forwarder, and they're waiting to be loaded. They're in New Jersey at the moment, so I'm probably going to expect them early in the new year, and but by that time I should be well and truly halfway through the exhaust, because I needed a bit of lead time. All the big components need to be ordered now, so that we've got them on the road, or got them ordered and got them, in transit. Because we're going to need them. So as soon as the exhaust is done and then that's over being ceramic coated, it'll be back into bodywork, because you can't do interior until the bodywork's done. So there's not much bodywork to do on this car. It's just basically paint. I mean, everything's as straight as a die. The SMC panels don't move. The doors are straight. I mean, laser straight. There's no bits and pieces. There's no muck in them. I just need to block sand the high build primers, so and get the contours right, so I just need to spend some time doing that and getting that organised. So yeah, as I say, I'd like to thank everyone for watching. Like, subscribe, share the videos. I noticed that a couple of my SuperPro bushes have been shared with a couple of forums, and I appreciate that. it just gets the viewers in there having a bit of a look, and if I can share something, what I've learned, and if I can learn something in the process, that's what it's all about. So if you've got any comments, please let me know. I'm open to all sorts of comments. Well, be nice. And then we can just build it as a community. Yeah, so until the exhaust video, which starts next week, peace out guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Righto.